Good morning, everybody. I was just looking and I'm thinking, one of these days, I'm actually going to record these videos not looking like I just rolled out of bed or maybe just rolling out of bed. Um, but in the meantime, just think this is how you'll know me for the most part. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Next video, I'm for sure going to be up and dressed and, you know, looking decent. Anyway, in the meantime, here we go. So this is the big week for research. Now, to suggest that you're only going to do research for a week is cute because that's just not how it's going to work, of course. You will be continuing this research. This is the beginning stages of your research project, or your research for your project. I should qualify that. And what I want you to do this week is to continue trying to find answers to your research question. Okay. I think I managed to comment on everybody's potential topics. If not, I'll double check at the end today. Fantastic topics, some really good ideas. I was very pleased with the direction that you guys are going, and I think that says something because you're thinking a little bit outside of the box instead of going with the more kind of, I don't want to call them traditional arguments because I think that's not necessarily the case, but with some of the more hotbed issues that often yield nothing but more argument and stalemate. So I'm pleased to see you guys finding some things that you care about, number one, which was, of course, one of the primary things I asked you to look for, and that other people care about too, because they're topics of interest, and you should be able to find a number of things attached to your research project. Okay, now, so as you begin researching on your particular subject area, like the larger arena, I want you to think about this. You are not only looking for people's opinions on the topic. Okay, presumably you will build your own opinion based on the material that you acquire. So look for information that helps you formulate and substantiate that position that you figure out, I guess, as you build this body of research. So your research may include studies done. They may include information. They may include news stories. There are things that can be held inside that larger container of research that extend well beyond just reading somebody's opinion on it. You're going to write a position paper on it, but your position paper needs to be rooted in some factual information. So figure out what you need to know. Okay, if you're going to look at, let's say that you're looking at something to do with, well, I'm just going to go back to this because this was last week's hot topic, concussions in sports, or you're going to advocate for no tackle football until high school, or something like that. Think about what you would need to know. Well, you need to know what does evidence reveal? How many young people suffer from traumatic head injury? How many young people over the last 30 years have suffered from this? What's the increased number of people suffering? What is a CTE? Like, what qualifies as head trauma? Look at all of those sorts of things. That doesn't tell you that, that doesn't give you anybody's position on that necessarily, but that's information that you need in order to build a response to the research question. So that's what you're looking for, okay? If you were looking at doping in sports, you would have to understand what doping is, right? We would have to understand what the frequency of using outside illegal substances to enhance performance. We have to know what that is as readers. So think about that as you push your way through research. It is so much more than just finding out like Joe Schmo says this and Jane says that, whatever. Like, you need to think about what you need to know and what your reader will need to know to understand and believe your position on that, and then to establish your own credibility. So in order to build your ethos, you need the strength of data that's going to let you earn it from your reader, okay? So think a little bit about that. No, think a lot about that, because that's what I want you doing this week. In addition to that, you're going to be taking a look at the materials in the module for the annotated bibliography. So I want you to watch and understand what an annotated bibliography is, what it's supposed to do. Okay, so as a reader, if I were to go to your annotated bibliography, I would be able to get a very strong sense of what each of those sources is about and the quality of those sources and how you plan to use them in your research paper. Okay, understand this. You may not use all 10 of those sources, and that is perfectly fine. Okay, but they're serving some benefit, or they're providing some benefit. They're giving you some value right now, even if it's just to say like, ooh, hey, I don't want to use that in my paper, but it really helped me see somebody else's point of view, or I needed to read about that before I could fully understand something else. All right, so choose those 10 sources. Then what you do is organizing it. I think all of you are using MLA. Organizing it using MLA, you'll have your citation, which will be just like what would appear on a works cited page. And then directly beneath that, you'll have the 150 words or fewer synopsis slash evaluation of the content of that particular resource. Okay. In some cases, you might have a 20, 25 page article. You have to make it make sense in a very short blurb about it, okay? That also has to reveal something, all right? It's not enough just to give some relative details. I want to understand the article. And then you'll finalize that with a couple of sentences that say, in my research or my capstone essay, I plan to use this to do boom, 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 X, Y, or Z, or whatever you're going to do. Take a look at some of the samples. I want a draft of this due by next Sunday. This is going to take some more time, so that's why we're pushing the dates a little bit. You'll also see I've modified, at least to kind of mainstream, the due dates for the hot topics. So this week's is due by Friday. There's a TED Talk I want you to watch. And I want you to think a little bit about the construction of TED Talks too, okay, because there's an interesting dynamic at play inside TED Talks, or most TED Talks. So watch that and we'll talk a little bit more about it. I think, like, for you guys, we're going to do a little recast, and creating a TED Talk is a brilliant way to share ideas because it's very user friendly. People like watching TED Talks or listening to podcasts because you get a lot of information in a short period of time. There's something very engaging about TED Talks. So think about that as you watch that. That one's a little bit dated, but I like the content, and I think it should be good fodder for discussion. Okay, so you're going to work on your annotated bibliographies. I will be looking at those. We're actually going to be planning for conferences. Okay, so before you write or as you're writing, I guess maybe it'll be over your rough drafts of your capstone essay, I would actually really like to meet face-to-face with you. Now, face-to-face can be taken a number of ways. So we could meet through a video chat. We can use WebEx, we could use FaceTime, we could use whatever you want. Or you could come by my office, or we could meet at the library or the union if you're on campus, whatever it is. So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds as you're working toward this. I'd like to do those conferences in a couple of weeks. I'll put a sign-up sheet up so we can work through the logistics of the time and things like that. They don't have to be long conferences, really 15 or 20 minutes, somewhere around there. So I can meet you and we can talk a little bit about your paper, and I'll return your rough drafts to you then with some feedback. I know it's kind of looking long, but I don't want to get, with online classes, it's so easy to get lost in the moment because I blink and then it's, the next week. So, okay, one more thing, and then I'm probably going to run out of time on this. Your final drafts, the final drafts of your rhetorical analyses are finished, they're graded, and they're uploaded. Now, if you were just really close to having what would be a better draft with one more revision, I'm going to encourage you to revise. You are welcome to revise your final drafts for a better grade if you think that you're willing. And now, okay, let me rephrase that. You are welcome to revise your final drafts with the idea that you're going to make some global revisions and really enhance that essay in order to get a better grade and to feel better about the final product. For most of you, the biggest problem I saw was just your elaborating on some of the rhetorical strategies used by the writer. All right, I think the overall ideas were sound. There was just so much more room to dig into those essays. Those were some pretty rich essays, and I think there were a lot of things that you could say about the style, the tone, the language, the various appeals, the various forms of evidence that were provided. Not just what are they, but why did the author choose to do it that way? So if you're thinking about revising, let me ask you to do this. I would like for you to email me and say, hey, I think I'd like to revisit that essay. But I'd also like for you to indicate what you think you could do to make it better, or not what you think, what you plan to do to make it better. And I typically like to leave about a 2-week window for you to revise those. Gives you a little bit of distance from the paper so you have some perspective, but then also doesn't leave too much time where you won't do it. I found that if I wait too long, people really just then won't go back and revise. And for some of you, it might be something that you really want to do or maybe really need to do. So think about that. Okay, so I'll post all this on the news page. It's funny because I want to make sure I met with Mackenzie last week and make sure that your information on the announcement page, on the front page of Brightspace, is showing up. For Mackenzie, it was a matter of clicking display the widgets. Everything we do and all the reminders should appear for you on that announcement page. Granted, everything gets linked to in the modules, but I think it's a little easier to navigate when you see just kind of those weekly reminders up there, or in some cases more than weekly. So that's what I have for you today. So have a fantastic Monday and make it a great week. If you need me, you know where to reach me.